Welcome to the Hopcast. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, and I'm on board Milwaukee streetcar, the Hop. It's all about connections, it's all about community, and it's all about moving Milwaukee forward. All right, welcome aboard the Hopcast. Another great episode here in beautiful downtown Milwaukee. I'm Jeff Sherman. Today I'm on the Hop with James Davies, Executive Director of Greater Milwaukee's nonprofit local bike share program, Bubbler Bikes. James has been the director since 2019, correct?
Yeah, just before the pandemic.
All right. But you worked in a lot of capacities at Bubbler Bikes since 2014.
Correct.
And this is a fun fact. You even helped build out the first 47 bikes of the fleet when you were working at Wheel and Sprocket.
Yep.
A wonderful local bike shop. So
Yep, absolutely.
a lot of great
And
connections.
still a great supporter of Bubbler. So
Yes, without a doubt.
yeah.
You're a great connector, obviously a community collaborator, and of course a huge advocate for public transit
Absolutely.
in Greater Milwaukee. So you're a perfect guest for this episode of the Hopcast. I thank you for taking the time, and
Well, thank you
thanks
for having
riding
me.
the streetcar.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's great to be on here.
All right, very good. We have some fun with these interviews. I'm gonna kind of do it in 4 different segments.
Okay.
First, a little onboarding so people get to know you, James. Then we're going to talk about moving Milwaukee forward. Big mission of the Hop is to continue to connect and move the city forward. We'll do some quick hops, 10 quick questions to get to know you even deeper, and then a final destination question as we do the 2.1 mile loop around downtown Milwaukee.
Awesome.
All right, well, just give us the James Davies story.
The James
Can
Davies.
you do that in 4 or 5 minutes?
I'll do my best. So, as it relates to here, especially, I'd say the James Davies story is sort of the story of me falling in love with bicycles over the course of my life, really. I went to undergrad at Madison for, of all things, genetics, and used a bike to get around for most of my transportation. It was just such a great way, such an easy way, such a convenient way to experience the city. I then went to law school in Florida, and again used a bike the whole time to get around. And when I was moving back to Wisconsin, I was like, I really love bicycles. That's what I love. So I got a job at Wheel and Sprocket where I built those first 47 Bubbler bikes, and then moved on over to Bubbler. And they didn't know about my legal background when they hired me. I kept that, but I use it all the time actually now at Bubbler to help with structure our contracts, our insurance.
Good.
We're not being investigated by anyone for our nonprofit status, so
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. So did you grow up in Milwaukee?
I grew up in Racine.
In Racine, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Racine, Madison,
Florida, Milwaukee.
back to Milwaukee. All right. That's good. I always like to build those connections. I think if you spent a lot of time in Wisconsin, moved away, about 95% of those people end up coming back to Wisconsin and kind of diving in and being even further connected. What about the Bubbler Bike story? For those who haven't seen the light blue stations along the route, I see one right now as we're passing the historic Third Ward. Tell us about Bubbler Bikes and how the system works.
So Bubbler is local. Like a lot of people, there's bike shares now everywhere. Okay. And so a lot of people I saw the Bubbler in Chicago or the Bubbler in whatever. And those are all different systems, run in different ways. But so Bubbler's local, started in Milwaukee by 3 Milwaukeeans, Bruce Keys, Julie Kaufman, and Barry Mainwood. They were like, hey, we've seen this in other cities, we need to bring it to Milwaukee. And then, so most of the stations, though, are actually funded by federal grants or state grants that the cities apply for. Okay. And then we are the nonprofit operator. Okay. So Bubbler really started in 2014 with 9 stations. Okay. And today we have 91 stations and 700 bikes in 3 municipalities. Okay. So pretty
what are those 3? Obviously Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, Wauwatosa, and West Dallas. Okay. Yep.
Okay. And you could, if I rent a bike in Milwaukee, I can take it to West Dallas, I can take it to Wauwatosa, and it all works together.
We wanted to make sure that the whole thing was compatible. We didn't want an incompatible bike share system in Wauwatosa where you couldn't bring it to Milwaukee and vice versa. Okay. So we wanted to make sure that it all worked together.
Okay. Talk about some of the benefits of a bike share program. Obviously, we probably all have bikes at home in our garage.
Sure.
So how does it work with our personal bikes? How does it not? Just talk about the bike share mantra,
sure.
if you will.
So a big part of it first is, so a lot of people, I think it's something like 4 out of 5 people in the U.S. have a bicycle someplace.
Right.
But how many flat tires does it have? Does the chain work? Like, is the rear derailleur functioning? Like, are you gonna have a comfortable ride with it? And so that's a big thing. Like, is it upside down on hooks in your garage? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so bike share is just there, ready to go. You step out, grab it, go. Also, like, hey, maybe you don't live in Milwaukee. Maybe you live in a little bit out further, and maybe you drive down, but then you park your car and then you can use the bike share system. You can use the Hop.
Mm-hmm.
Another big thing, a lot of our big users are UW Milwaukee students.
Okay.
So maybe they got a bike at home, but haven't crammed one in their dorm room or whatever.
Right.
So that's some of the good uses. Also, a lot of tourists use our system. And it's something that most folks now expect if they're coming to a city, that it's going to be a way that they can choose to get around.
True. And there's a good peace of mind knowing that the bikes are always kept up well, that you have a full maintenance staff, that you're not getting on a bike, like you said, that has a flat tire, that doesn't steer correctly. And so there's that. All the bikes in my garage, I know every time my kids want them, I got to go out and inspect them and make sure they're workable.
Yeah. And our bikes all have front and rear dynamo lights that are on all the time. They've got splash guards, so like no one likes riding in the rain and ending up with a wet butt with the tire splash. So all our bikes have like the full splash guard. So if there's a little drizzle, you're going to be okay.
Okay. So talk about using the system. If I'm going up to a station, can I be a one-time rider? Do I need an annual pass? Is there a monthly fee? Like how does the system work from a pure user standpoint?
Yes, you can use it in a whole bunch of ways.
Okay.
If you want to just walk up to the system and swipe your credit card, you can.
Okay.
You can just pay 25 cents per minute to ride the bike, return it to any other station, check it in, you're done.
Okay.
You can also get an annual pass. Your annual pass is $100. It's unlimited 60-minute trips. So you can take 10, 12, however many rides you want a day. Definitely, there's folks that use it. They go to work, they go to lunch, they go to their meetings, just racking up trips.
Yeah.
We do have a monthly option. It's basically just a monthly version of the annual membership, only $30. And then we have our access pass for income qualified folks. It's actually free, basically a free annual pass if you receive any sort of benefits, to make sure that we're as accessible as possible.
Okay, very good. I can get all that information on the website or on the app.
Bubblerbikes.org. Yeah, we have an app. There's so many ways to check out a bike.
Right, very good. So talk a little bit about how a community, municipality, or village gets a Bubbler bike station and kind of the evolution of those stations. Like, we live in Shorewood. I know we used to have stations and we don't now. Like, how does that work? Is it the community saying, hey, I need Bubbler bikes, and then you work on a financial model? Or just walk us through that.
Yeah, that's basic. So, like I referenced earlier, so usually what happens is the city says, I'm going to go apply for this state or federal grant for bike share infrastructure.
Okay.
The city of Milwaukee has always went after congestion mitigation air quality, which is a federal grant. Wauwatosa, West Dallas, and Shorewood, when they had applied for a transportation alternatives grant program through the state. So they applied for the grant, and then the first time around, they then had to do an RFP to find like what equipment they were going to use, and then what operator they're going to use, and all that stuff. Now that it's all set up, they can, part of the thing can be, well, we want it to be compatible.
Okay.
So then it's called sole source.
Okay.
But so, and then with all those grants, there's a requirement of public engagement to find out, well, where should we put the stations? And so the city and Bubbler together go out, explain how it works. It's a little less obvious with Bubbler than it is like maybe the Hop, but like it doesn't work necessarily just throw a station down anywhere. You got to think about how it works with the network. Like we could have we have like a cluster in West Dallas that can be a little self-sufficient, but you can't just go throw a station like 5 miles away from anything else. You got to think about the network.
It's got to work with the network and the other stations, right?
So then we go through that process, and then we find those locations. And then it's about moving, like, oh, there's actually not room here, even though it'd be great. Let's move it a block this way or a block that way.
Yeah. Okay. So if we talk about Milwaukee a little bit and the connections to the city, where's the natural next phase for Bubbler? Do you have your eyes on a certain community, or just talk through that process?
Sure. So I never like to. We've been talking about this for years, but But we are expanding. We're adding 26 new stations.
All right, good.
And so 10 of those are going to go on the northwest side, sort of expanding into River West and Harambe a little bit, all the way out to Washington Park.
Okay.
10 of those are going to go on the southwest side, sort of like in the Mitchell or historic Mitchell Street District, and pretty much out to the domes. And then we've got 6 stations that are going to be a little infill. We've got a couple spots that just there's obvious gaps to try to fill in those missing points. And beyond that, like I hope that the system, we can keep expanding the system. I'd like it to serve the entire county. That would be my goal.
Very good. All right. There's a little breaking news there on the Hopcast. You know where the bubbler stations are coming next.
Yeah.
Appreciate that update. Obviously, the bubbler stamps all over the city. Talk a little bit about how bubbler better connects the city and all the neighborhoods. You know.
So I think that the role that bike share can play is because it's got both flexibility and it's a low barrier to entry for like we have the access pass, but even without the access pass, $100 for an entire year of access is relatively affordable. $30 monthly pass, and it is, although we have to think about the network, it is flexible in terms of like we can put a station here where like we can to it doesn't necessarily need to be like a road or a railway track. Like there's a little bit more flexibility in sort of how you expand it, and with a relatively also low cost of adding those stations compared to like a lot of other big infrastructure. And so I think that's key.
Were there some changes coming to the station? So if you're not familiar, I take the bike out, it just locks back in when I go to return it. Are they becoming smaller or more portable?
Yeah, we are. Our hope is the 3.0 stations, as they're called, will be more modular, and so we will be able to do more individual sized docks. Another cool thing about the 3.0 stations, our old stations, they're made in the U.S., but they were made in like someplace in Colorado. These 3.0 stations made in Wisconsin.
Oh, very nice.
So,
all right, very good. Keeping it even more local.
Yep.
Just another reason to love bubbler bikes.
Yep.
Talk about the evolution of the bike itself.
Sure.
I've never been on an e-bike. I'm fascinated by kind of how you just see more and more of them. And is that something bubbler bikes can move into? And then just, if you've been on an e-bike, tell me what it's like to drive a one.
So again, also much awaited. These new stations and these e-bikes are supposed to come in 2020. But we all know that some things happen in the world and that delayed these things. But so we were supposed to be adding e-bikes this year, which I'm very excited about. And I think it's going to really expand who uses and who sees the system as usable for them. Both for maybe folks that are like not, maybe they're past their prime cycling days. They just need that little boost. But just folks that might think like, I don't want to get all sweaty, but the e-bike is good for me. I think it's a lot of different folks that'll use the bikes.
Do you need a driver's license?
You do not.
No? Okay.
So
I had to ask. I didn't know.
Right. So there's, not to get too far into the weeds, but there's 3 classes of e-bikes.
Okay.
And the e-bikes that will be adding to the system are class 1. So they're they have the least regulations. And so you do not need a driver's license.
Very good. All right.
And in terms of how they ride, so in my opinion, the beauty of the e-bike is like when you hit a hill, because the class 1s are pedal assist, so they respond to your power, like how hard you're pushing. Okay. So as you like try to power up that hill, all of a sudden you feel that motor just kick in and like the hill's gone. Suddenly you're at the top. So they really just I think that's like when they're the most beautiful.
Nice. All right. Good. Well, I'm excited for it. I'm eager to try it out for sure. So you talked a little bit about how if you're a tourist coming to Milwaukee, bike share plays a really prominent role in terms of getting around a community. As you've traveled around, are there communities and cities that you'd like to see Milwaukee emulate in terms of their approach to biking and bike share?
I think, just to be very realistic, I think Indianapolis is a city that I think Milwaukee should look at. So we've got the Oak Leaf Trail, which is an absolutely fantastic piece of infrastructure. And we've got the Hank Aaron State Trail, which is also just amazing. But if you look at them, they all end, and put you on the street in downtown. And Indianapolis has the Indianapolis Cultural Trail, which is basically a loop around their downtown, in and through like their business districts, a lot of their like major neighborhoods, and it's an off-street protected bike and pedestrian network. You could do a little theirs is 8 miles.
Okay.
You could do a 6-mile loop in Milwaukee, and you could connect to the Hank Aaron from the west, the Oakleaf coming in from the south, and the Oakleaf coming down from the north, and make that, like, complete that circle. And then it's like there's a lot of people that are just, they're not going to ride in a painted bike lane.
Right.
They don't feel safe, and we just need that off-street protected infrastructure. And I think looking at Indianapolis, it's not Berkeley, it's not London, it's not Europe. Like, it's another Midwestern city that I think if we can say Indianapolis can do it, Milwaukee can do it.
All right, very good. That's on the list and appreciated, and let's keep that moving forward for sure. That'd be great for Milwaukee.
Yeah.
All right, want to move on to a little quick hop segment here. If you're ready for it.
All right.
I don't have a time frame, but we
There's
like to
not
do
gonna be
these in maybe
buzzers?
2 minutes.
There's not
Yeah,
gonna be
buzzer
buzzers?
like a
Okay.
game show. But I have just 10 quick questions
All right.
for you, James. What book are you reading right now?
Plagues Upon the Earth by Kyle Harper.
All right. Give us a little bit about it.
It's basically about the history of how disease has impacted humanity, and how we've responded to it. And he started writing it in 2017 and finished it in 2020. So he
Okay. Timely and relevant for sure.
Yeah.
So someone's coming downtown to ride bubbler bikes in their car. What's your parking tip for him or her?
So I would say that if you're coming downtown, you shouldn't drive your car for the most part. You know, we've got the bus system, we've got the Hop,
There you go.
we've got bubbler bikes. There's so many ways to get downtown that don't require you to bring your car, and you don't need to worry about it. Like,
Even easier.
Done.
All right. So you're in Milwaukee. What's your favorite restaurant?
My favorite restaurant. I'm gonna have to go with the Fister.
Oh, nice. That's old school. The cafe at the Fister is my favorite breakfast spot.
Yeah,
but
like I used to get breakfast there with my brother every Friday. He lives on the east side, so we'd meet there every Friday morning for breakfast. So yeah, their breakfasts.
very much a Milwaukee icon. Your favorite place to ride your bike?
The Oakleaf Trail.
All right, very good. So you have a free Friday night in Milwaukee. What do you like to do? If you're not biking.
If I'm not biking. Well, so I have a 4-month-old right now, so I'd probably go to sleep. But
that's good. Yeah, get that sleep, and that's a good thing to do. So, the best live sporting event you've ever been to?
River West 24.
Oh yes, very much so. Is it going to happen again? Has it been officially announced for this year?
I don't know.
I don't know either, but it hasn't been canceled.
Yeah, I don't think so. Because they did something last year. It was different.
Right.
It was like less of like everyone together. It was more like choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're gonna do something. But
I know we're all hopeful it returns to its pre-COVID glory.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
How about the one mistake we all make with our bikes?
Not riding it enough.
Oh, very good. I like that. All right. Your favorite city other than Milwaukee?
I'm probably gonna have to go with Chicago.
Okay, very good. Milwaukee's favorite suburb, I always say.
Yep.
The two cities work really well together on
Yep.
so many levels.
Yeah.
Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
I think probably Mandela Barnes. You know, I haven't met a lot of famous people.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, I'm sure Mandela's a big fan of the Hop and the bubbler bike share system for sure. Finally, your best bike-related purchase you've made in the last 6 months. There's so many different innovations for bicycles, so I'm always fascinated to ask people, like, what do I need for my bike that I don't have right now?
So I got a new dynamo front light for my bike.
Okay.
And I had, like, the old one I had, it had this, like, it was like a switch that I had to turn on and off, and it would always, like, it was, like, waterproof, and that water didn't wreck it, but when it got wet, it would just turn on and off on its own. And my new one is just automatic. It just detects if it's light or dark out, and it's beautiful.
Nice. Technology
I know.
is our friend for sure. All right. Well, we are at the final destination here, which is Burns Commons on the Hop route. I always like to ask Hopcast guests to define success.
Getting to do something you enjoy while having a positive impact on your community.
Very good. That is wonderful. James Davies, Executive Director of Bubbly Bike Share. I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on the Hopcast. Anything else you want to talk about?
Anything else I want to talk about?
We could talk about
infrastructure
people
forever.
Need to know about bubbler bikes before we end.
Bikes. You know, I think bubbler bikes, if we want to talk about things that, like when I think about bubbler bikes, I think about it as part of our transportation ecosystem. I love how many stations we have co-located with the Hop. 80% of our stations are co-located with MCTS stops. I think we want to keep moving Milwaukee forward. It's about building out those networks, expand. Let's get these streetcar expansions. Let's get more BRT lines in with dedicated bus lanes, bus rapid transit. I know we're gonna have our first one soon, but let's get some north and south ones. That's I think what the biggest things that will really help Milwaukee attract and retain talent, make it a world-class city. When we looked at those things 10 years ago and you were saying, well, what are the comparators? You were looking at like coastal cities or European cities. But now when you're looking at these things, like Cincinnati has them, Indianapolis has them, Pittsburgh has them. Like, if we want to be competitive, those are the things we need to do.
Very good. All right, we will continue to move Milwaukee forward together. Bubbler Bikes, the Hop. Thank you for watching and listening to the Hopcast. Available on YouTube and all the Hop social channels. Thank you very much. Until then, get downtown and ride the Hop.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.